I would like to place an order for some freshly delivered chicken tendies.
For today's video, we're going to be looking at a new text-to-speech model that has really decent voice cloning capabilities as well as some intricate emotional control capabilities. This is Index TTS2 from Bilibili. I don't know if I have pronounced that 100% properly, but I did actually test the previous version of this on the channel, which was just dubbed Index TTS, and the voice cloning capabilities were quite impressive. I have been playing with this a little prior to beginning to film this video, and I can say it does a very good job of keeping consistency, and some of the emotional control capabilities can be somewhat entertaining. So with that, let's just take a first look at this model and some of the features, and then we'll jump right into running it and see how much VRAM it uses, etc. Installation for this model is quite simple, and the only issue that I did run into has fortunately been resolved since I actually began playing with this, which can be seen just right here with this pull request that was merged in, where essentially there was a dependency issue with one of the things included that's not 100% necessary just to play with this in the manner which we will be using it today. So fortunately, we don't need to manually implement any of these fixes, and that makes things a lot easier here. And I won't do a full intricate installation tutorial here, but I will just mention that basically all I did is follow these simple steps right here, just using UV, and everything worked fine and nice. And it is good to see because this is a Blackwell card that we're using today. It is a 5090 mobile, so sometimes dependency issues can rear their head with newer hardware, but I'm happy to report that I did not have any issues with this. Really, I'm not going to get into too much technical information right here. Basically, it's good. It has voice cloning capabilities, and beyond that, there are a few different ways to actually handle the emotion control, whether it be sliders for specified, like a 1 of 7 emotional value, you can kind of modulate those, or they do actually have an interesting thing here, which was kind of mentioned in the technical report somewhere, where they talked about actually going ahead and using DeepSeek R1 to train like a small Quen model to basically allow you to kind of give it a text prompt for the emotion in which you want the clone voice to carry, or something of the sort like that. They do mention that here. The technical report is not super long, and they mention kind of more about that right here. So with that, we are just going to now navigate away from the web site right there and go ahead, and we see that I have the terminal set up here and everything is all set, and I do already have this all installed, so we can just go ahead and do uv run webui.py, and we'll start to see the basic like default VRAM utilization that we're noticing here once this actually loads in and provides us with the Gradio interface URL. I will keep the NVTop VRAM utilization at least prominently displayed here for a little as we play with this. And we do see that we get a somewhat intricate web interface here, which has a lot of things which may be kind of like initially intimidating. However, it is actually fairly simple to use, which is always nice to see. There are some examples here, but I noticed, and I'll minimize that just to show that if we actually try to use any one of these, we do just get an issue where it says like there's a cache issue or permissions issue or something like that. So fortunately, we're not going to really be needing to use any of those samples there, so we can just ignore that, but I did feel it prudent to kind of mention. And now let's just go ahead and at least see an initial cloning result, just keeping in mind that I'm not using this microphone to clone my voice, but rather the actual built-in microphones on this laptop. Hey, how are you? I'm just kind of recording my voice here so we can see a demonstration of the cloning capabilities. And just as we do that, I will basically type in something random here, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see our result. Speed-wise, it is quite decent here, so we can see that it generated 2.64 seconds of audio in a little over 2.69 seconds, so it is quite quick. Again, this is a newer card, and VRAM utilization there, if we're going to monitor that, has jumped to a little over 10 gigs. Let's just play the cloned result now.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
I mean, I don't know how it will be conveyed to you watching, but to me right here, it does sound extremely similar.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
And again, there is kind of like that tinge of like low quality sound to it, and that is something I'm going to have to attribute to the fact that I am sitting fairly far away from this laptop, and built-in laptop microphones are definitely not like something you want to use for purposes like this. So it really did accurately capture the sound, even kind of implementing some of the lower quality recording style that may have been heard because of my mic. So here's the sample.
Hey, how are you?
I'm just kind of recording my voice here so we can see a demonstration of. And we can see that is kind of a bad audio sample, and it really did a great job of using that to come up with, "Hello, my friends, subscribe or else." So that's pretty good. I am going to use just a better voice sample at some point, obviously, but let's just go ahead and continue using this voice reference clip for now, and then we can go ahead and see some of the other settings right here, mainly the ones that allow us to control the emotions. So there are a few different options for using this. The default one that was checked right here is to just keep the emotion that was shown in the actual sample clip, which can be kind of funny. However, you can also add in a separate reference track for the emotion in addition to the actual voice reference. So it will clone the voice reference here, but it will try to take the emotion from the second sample thing. So that may be kind of interesting. So let's just go ahead and I'm just like angry, you know? Ugh! And then we'll kind of put the slider up here, and keeping in mind that we're using the same exact cloning here, let's see how it does comparatively when using an angry result.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
So that's a really cool feature, and from what we saw right there, it did absolutely work. Let's turn this emotion control weight down and then see how it goes.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
So it does accurately affect the value. Let's just pop it all the way to 1.6 and try one final time, as I will probably scream at us here.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
So in addition to this, and we can just kind of go away from that now, there are also some emotion vectors right here, which they do talk about how they got these in the technical report. But basically you can set some of these to random values. And if you do that, you will go ahead and see when you begin to actually generate the result right here that they are and you can see them just being kind of reflected right there in the little array that gets shown there. So,
hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
And you can see that did obviously have a relatively big impact on the voice in terms of the emotion. And then finally, we have a text description option to control the emotion, which now I find that yeah, I played with this before, and it's willing to kind of make you sound like you're doing different things while it does generate the voices. So let's just do something simple. We'll just try very excited.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
And we'll just do now very sad, just to get like a back-to-back reference point at least. This is the more scientific version of like a part of the video. It will divulge into just
hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
So you can see that's really cool. Let's do very sad. Now, I did try putting in like random words like guitar, and unfortunately it doesn't really seem to do anything. But if you do put a music clip here in the voice reference thing, it will create some oddities in the synthesis result here.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
So obviously putting in just like a random word doesn't really have any impact on this. Unfortunately, it doesn't make it sound funny. Let's do, we'll use enraged, one of my favorite words, of course.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
That sounds a bit similar to sad. So again, this is obviously the main thing that sticks out to me here just immediately before I just get into probably like more foolish testing, which I myself enjoy. The settings here and the options to actually control the emotional control are very, very feature packed. I mean, there is 4 separate. So really what I'm trying to say here is the ability and different ways to control emotion here is quite impressive just based off of the sheer number of what's available. I mean, I feel most things would probably just have like 1 or 2 of these capabilities, but this one has everything. It is feature packed. Now, beyond that, there are of course some advanced generation parameter settings. And basically they say here that if you set this value higher, it can be better, but it will require more VRAM. So you max it out at 600, and it's interesting because it just shows you the tokenized breakdown too of like the audio generation segments, which is interesting. And you obviously have the sampling parameters, which you would maybe familiar with somewhat from like using LM Studio or something like that. And here's like a maximum, like the Mel spectrogram tokens that it generates. So the audio will be cut off if it exceeds this, something like that. I don't know. I'm not like an expert in some of this audio stuff, but let's go ahead and just try it once more with the 600 set here. And the emotional control is just same as voice reference. So this should just be kind of a normal and non-exaggerated result.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
And then back to back here, just to give like some level of educational, I suppose, insight. We'll try it with the lowest value now.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
Now, truly, I don't really notice a huge difference. It is possible that I'm using it incorrectly, but I don't think that is the case. So it may just be because the voice reference and the actual generated result here are both fairly short. But I did not see VRAM usage change between the two. So my assessment of this is it would perhaps have more of a noticeable effect with a lengthier either voice reference or sample text.
Hello, my friends. Subscribe or else.
So with that, I suppose now we can get into some of the more entertaining things. I'll probably just put this back at the default value since, you know, that's probably how most folks will use it. I do find that this is quite good at copying the way in which one speaks. So I'll probably just record some things and then we'll play the result. And I may not show the recording part, but you'll get the gist of it by the result. All right, so now I have recorded something. So let's just we'll just copy this for now, paste it in just to see, and we'll get to synthesize the speech here.
A breakthrough in emotionally expressive and duration.
So that is, it's obviously pretty good. And again, this is just with like a low quality.
Put the money in the bag or everyone gets it.
Now I'll just try like a British accent, but like the only thing I can think of to speak that in is like Harry Potter quotes. Give it here, Malfoy. All right, so we'll just just try to see if it keeps that. But it's really good at zero shot. Watch, it's gonna make me sound British.
Put the money in the bag or everyone gets it.
Okay, that maybe wasn't enough British sounding speech for it, but it did obviously go a little British. We needed to go full British. Oi, mate, you got a license for that GPU? I'm gonna get, yeah, all right. We'll just see what happens.
Put the money in the bag or everyone gets it. Albus Dumbledore is the greatest wizard of all time.
Let's try some emotion reference audio. Oh no, we don't need that. Let's, I like the text emotion control as it just, so watch this. Now I'm probably not gonna be able to show the entirety of what I type here. So can I still type in this without, okay, so I've put in something there that would just insinuate someone while speaking.
Albus Dumbledore is the greatest wizard of all time.
And it does kind of understand. I can try some more, but maybe off camera, and then we'll just see the result. So we'll just...
Albus Dumbledore is...
So this is an actual... It's just a song. It's a piece of music. So I'm going to trim it, because if we try to use the entirety of it, it would just kind of glitch out and be unhappy. Okay, so we trimmed. Let's see if we can trim some more. Good. So basically this is just an introductory piano riff, but I want to try having it synthesize this just to see if we get any like disastrous or disturbing results. So let's just close this.
Hello and welcome to today's video.
So you can obviously... Yeah, like when it's speech related, I mean, at the core of it, it's just sound. So you can go and use things that would potentially be totally out of scope for this, like putting a song into the voice reference and then... I'm just trying this once more with a lower quality reference clip of myself just to see how well it does comparatively.
I am going to head off to Micro Center and buy a new 3D printer. Then when they offer the cart, I will scoff at them, saying I can carry it to my car, neglecting to realize that they listed weight online was wrong, and it was in fact north of 90 pounds. Big mistake.
So it did a much better job there capturing the tonality of my voice, being that that was a longer sample. So I guess just off of playing with this for a few minutes on camera, we can make the assessment that a longer voice reference clip right here will produce a much more thorough result, which is probably quite a logical thing to have picked up on now that I hear myself say that. But I'm just going to go ahead and close this because the VRAM utilization spiked so high because I just basically put a whole song into the voice reference. So we're going to reopen it, and then we'll have a more reasonable GPU usage figure. And I want to keep that up throughout the duration of the video because obviously that's going to be an important consideration for folks who want to use this. I did embark upon some more creative testing, and I am sad to report that if you just try to paste in a large piece of a Python script into this, it seems to consistently error out. So that is definitely a downside here.
I would like to place an order for some freshly delivered chicken tendies.
Love it. There's the intro. So the last thing I'm going to try is just how well this will actually make me speak a different language, in this case Chinese. Now I have my own voice reference sample right there, but I truly don't actually know what this is from one of these sample things, but this is the souvenir we hear. Okay, so it's not something that's like egregious to be said on video, which is the only thing I needed to ensure. And we have the emotion control set to the same as the voice reference. So we'll see how this sounds. Obviously, I don't speak Chinese, so I won't be able to really accurately judge like if it's right or not, but I don't know, we'll just...
这个呀，就是我们精心制作准备的纪念品。大家可以看到这个色泽和这个材质啊，哎呀，多么的光彩照人。
It didn't sound like messed up to me, which is good. Let me try it with the other voice sample reference I have that is shorter. However, it is much higher quality actual recording.
这个呀，就是我们精心制作准备的纪念品。大家可以看到这个色泽和这个材质啊，哎呀，多么的光彩照人。
And to me, that sounded good. I mean, I won't, maybe.
这个呀，
Okay, that's just not going to be a comparable... all right, so we're going to keep it here, but we're going to just make me full anger. And we'll see how it can handle emotional control from cloning a voice into a different language.
这个呀，就是我们精心制作准备的纪念品。大家可以看到这个色泽和这个材质啊，哎呀，多么的光彩照人。
I'm sure that sounded really funny to anyone who actually understands Chinese, because I don't believe this sample prompt is something one would say with that much emotion. So I actually do want to try this a few more times. Just full sad. We'll go full sad. Then we'll see.
这个呀，就是我们精心制作准备的纪念品。大家可以看到这个色泽和这个材质啊，哎呀，多么的光彩照人。
That's really good. I mean, regardless of like whether or not it was even right, but the voice was so. Oh, okay. Okay, I've said this probably 4 times, which I'll have inevitably cut from the video. But for the last thing, I am just going to try one final thing, but say muscle man for the emotion description here. I'm just using one of the default things that they have in from the sample here, just the actual text prompt, because I'm not feeling super creative right now. Let's just see if this sounds like a muscle man way of saying it. It is my voice cloned.
The palace is strict. No false rumors, Lady Chi.
Sounded to me the polar opposite of muscle man, but I suppose that is okay. All right, so overall, I am going to say that this is very impressive in terms of its zero-shot voice cloning capabilities. It does a really good job of capturing your voice. Obviously, the input quality is going to be very effective on the output quality. So basically, if you use like a crappy laptop mic for some of this, as I had done, you will get a result that properly adheres to that. But on the flip side of that, I will say that is actually a positive demonstration of the capabilities here, being that it does accurately keep a lot of those features, whether they be good or bad, which is overall a good thing to see in a voice cloning text-to-speech library or repository or model. Model is the terminology I was looking for. In terms of the VRAM utilization, when we didn't use anything that was super long for either the voice reference or the actual text prompt to synthesize, it stayed like between 9 and 10 gigs. So I would feel comfortable saying that you could use this at a basic experimental level if you had a 12 gigabyte video card. Anything less than that, unfortunately, I'm not 100% sure, and I can't really speak to any offloading or things like that. So I would probably suggest like a 3060 or above. 12 gig 3060 for this use case. But beyond that, I'm very impressed with its capability. And in addition to that, the absolute sheer number of different ways you can actually go ahead and control the emotions here is really awesome to see, because if you actually do go in and look at the technical report, if things like this do kind of interest you, a lot of these different ways actually have like different backing to how they actually control the emotions in terms of a technical standpoint, which is kind of cool. This is very educational to use and has a lot of very interesting findings in it. Beyond that, there are even more additional sample parameters and things like that here. Something I didn't do is just make the temperature super wild, so I should probably just try that because it will be interesting and maybe could give us some form of a funny result. So we'll try that as the last thing here.
The palace is strict. No false rumors, Lady Chi.
All right, and it's just such a short input voice reference clip and short text prompt that even bumping the temperature really up may not make it sound super funny because it's very short. So with that, I suppose that's going to conclude our first look and test of Index TTS2. It's very good. It's fun to use, and obviously being that I am making a demonstration video of this to be posted on a video platform, I can't go and just try cloning popular people's voices or things like that. So this is definitely something I would encourage those of us who are interested in to go and play with themselves, as it can be rather entertaining and overall is a worthy addition to the text-to-speech open source model world. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to subscribe.